So I received an email from a gentleman the other day. He's 41 and going back to college. He's changing careers, going to grad school, and he's single and realizes he's going to be in a target-rich environment. So his question to me was, Antonio, how do I dress young without looking like I'm trying too hard?
How do you do, fellow kids?
It's a good question, right? Because nobody wants to look like this guy or this guy over here. And that leads me to the first tip in today's video, gents, is imitation. You see, saying that you want to dress young isn't really useful. What's better is saying that you want to dress like this, having a specific example of somebody that was able to pull it off and being able to see how they did it in detail. Now, one of the reasons that celebrities, especially those in Hollywood, are such great examples here is that they are surrounded by people in a youth-obsessed culture. Probably not a good thing for their mental health, but a good thing for you to be able to see somebody who has to live up to these expectations of looking like they stay up on the latest fashion and looking younger often than they actually are. So looking at these actors, they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, you can see how a lot of these guys are able to actually dress young and not look like they're trying too hard. Point I was making is to have a specific example of where you want to go, because the more specific you can envision what to you looking young looks like, the more likely you are to hit this target. Normally, if I'm consulting a guy on a style, what I would recommend is for him to put together a lookbook. Wherever it is you collect images, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, you simply pull pictures out of a magazine and keep a scrapbook. The point being is starting to put together different looks, finding particular items that you like that for you are going to embody the style that you're shooting for. And again, celebrities are a great cheat code because they've got these stylists that are working for them full time, putting these outfits together and staying up on the latest trends. And that takes me to tip number 2, stay current, not trendy. Now, trends and the whimsical winds of fashion, those are notoriously hard to catch. You can do it, but it's almost a full-time job. And then you got to understand you are really going to stand out from the crowd. You are going to draw attention because of your look. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing if you're a fashionista, but again, the gentleman that wrote to me, it looks like he doesn't really want to stand out. He just wants to look younger. And so the key here is to understand what actually is in style and then go with a variation that works for your body type. An example being back in 2010, skinny jeans were in, and that was maybe the last time that you bought jeans. So guess what? A lot of your jeans are going to be dated. You're going to want to upgrade. You're going to want to buy new ones, but don't necessarily go with the baggy jeans that are dominating right now. No, you look at your body type and you realize, hey, those skinny jeans are in the closet. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't even work for me now. How about I just go with a regular straight cut? Now, to take this tip even a bit further, let's look at the brands. Let's look at the stores that are currently in fashion. Now, I'm not saying you can't get away with brands that you've been wearing forever, but I am saying that if you want to look younger, you want to maybe go for a brand, maybe has a small style detail that you don't even notice, but other people pick up on. Again, you want to make sure that the fit works for you, but don't be afraid to try something new. Go into a store that recently has been picking up a lot of steam, all the young people are shopping at, but then find a style of denim or whatever piece of item you're picking up that works for you. This is how you stay current, not trying to ride the trend. Next up, keep the footwear fresh. Now, it may have been a while, but you might recall when you were a younger man how important it was to get the particular pair of shoes. Certain sneakers were in, other ones were not. As to which sneakers are currently in, guys, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below, but this is definitely something you can pick up on by walking into a particular store, maybe that specializes in sneakers. And yeah, you don't want to go for the most expensive ones, even though you could probably afford it at this point in your life. But no, go with something that's a little bit understated, a little bit simple, a sneaker that simply isn't going to draw a whole lot of attention, but at the same time is a recent release. The point I'm trying to make here is pay attention to your footwear. It could have been a while because in your old job, yeah, you had your work shoes, you had your dress shoes. You didn't have to worry about your casual shoes. Well, guess what? If you're going back to school, if you're going to be around a younger crowd in general, they are going to dress more casual. Which takes me to the next point. Casual but stylish. Now, the gentleman that wrote me, I wasn't aware of the style he had before he wanted to make this transition, but I'm assuming that it was a little bit dressier. Perhaps he wore a sports jacket, perhaps he wore a suit, maybe he had a uniform that he wore to work. Well, if you're going back to college, especially here in the United States, the uniform is going to be casual. People do pay attention to the fit, they pay attention to the brands, they pay attention to the overall silhouette and the way it works on the body. Okay, wait, I take that back. Not everybody, but guys that actually want to look good. Remember, there are are a lot of stylish younger guys that maybe don't have a huge budget, but they really do put a lot of thought and effort into their look. And those are the guys you're not looking to compete with them because you've got your own unique, advantages you're bringing to the table. You do want to take a page from their playbook and pay attention to that casual combination. Make sure that everything is on point. So immediately everything should fit. Nothing should be stained. Nothing should be dirty. Nothing should be torn, falling apart. You want to get rid of all that. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of older guys make is they think, no one really cares. Yeah, they still do care about clothing. In fact, I would say your image is even more important at this point in your life. And some of you guys may be thinking, well, can I really stand out? Maybe wearing a sports jacket, wearing a suit. I do think, for what this guy's shooting for, and if you're in a casual environment, if you're looking to blend more in and look younger, I would say avoid the sports jacket. Otherwise, you're going to walk into that classroom and you're going to get mistaken as being the professor, which may not be a bad tactic if your professor walks in and she's pretty damn cute. But let's get back to jackets, guys. So many options here. So many younger guys totally forget about, the bomber jacket, the blouson jacket, going with a denim jacket, maybe in black, maybe a charcoal gray, maybe going just with the classic blue. I'm also a big fan of the fatigue jacket or going for a 4-button jacket, kind of safari look without the belt around it. This jacket right here just really stands apart. And let's not forget the leather jacket. I'm not saying you got to bring out a full-on biker jacket here, but maybe a moto style, a fatigue style, or even a bomber. Now, when it comes to your shirts, you don't have to wear a collared shirt, but if you decide to, go with maybe a solid white, maybe a blue. You could go with a polo. Don't go with any big logos on any of the clothing, especially those graphic tees. In general, you want to avoid these. And don't get me wrong, as a teenager, as a guy in my early 20s, I loved graphic tees. But I think if you're in your 30s, your 40s, and you want to look young, you can pull off a t-shirt, but go with something that complements your build, is solid or dark in color, but you want to avoid the big logos. Unless you're getting paid by the company, avoid wearing those big branded logos. Now let's talk about accessories. So backpacks are not just for kids. Yeah, you're a man in your 30s and 40s, ditch the briefcase. I love good briefcase, but find yourself a classic backpack. You can go with something really high-end made from leather. You can go with a synthetic material. Tons of options out there. What you're going for, though, is simple, clean, elegant. Me personally, when I went back to graduate school at the University of Texas and got my MBA, I found that I wanted something black. I wanted something that had solid cushioning on the straps. And because I was at school all day, I wasn't able to go home. I pretty much had carried everything with me in that backpack, from my laptop computer to any of the books I needed that day. So I made sure it was a backpack that had plenty of room. What you do want to avoid is anything that's too stuffy, too formal looking, and anything that is way too cheap looking. Yeah, when you were 21 and you didn't have any money, that backpack got the job done. You want to have something that has a bit of style because it will reflect you. Now, up to this point, I failed to mention probably the most important thing that makes a man look younger, and that is your body. Your physical fitness, the way that you move. I assume that, you don't have a whole lot of time, but if you haven't started running, if you haven't started going to the gym, if you don't find an exercise that can get your body, just simply feeling and moving like a young man, then all this other stuff I'm talking about, it's padding, but it really doesn't address the big issue. You got to take care of your body. I assumed, again, that you are in decent shape, but I would highly recommend you get back to stretching, moving, because this is something people can pick up on. Anybody watch the movie The Irishman? Yes, they tried to de-age De Niro, but when he got into that fight, we could clearly tell that this was an old man kicking a guy that was down versus the man he was trying to portray who was in his 30s or 40s. So whether it's yoga, whether it's calisthenics, you want to find a way to get your body to be more flexible. And on top of that, you're just going to feel better and live longer. And while we're covering things beyond style, let's talk about your mindset. So as a man in your 40s, again, I don't know your background, but I do know that as we age in general, become a little bit more conservative. We are more careful about risk. All of a sudden, we've just seen a lot of things. We think before we jump in there and act. And I'm not saying to go out and do anything stupid, but I'm saying if you want to be perceived as younger, take, that young at heart seriously and think, hey, where am I holding myself back? Where could I be a little bit more fun, more adventurous? Where could I just have a little bit more spontaneity? You see, human beings are complex, and we use, yes, the visuals initially to be able to determine the age of somebody, but when we start talking with them, interacting, they can seem a lot younger or they can seem a lot older. And what we're shooting for here is for you to look younger and for you to act a bit younger because you want to come off as truly a younger person. So spend time with your younger friends. Find out what they're really interested in. Learn more about the issues that they're concerned about. And then all of a sudden, you'll be able to talk the talk. You will start to come off as younger because you'll be around people that are bringing in fresh ideas and, just simply are going to make you younger by association. All right, Jen, so let's talk about grooming. Men are creatures of habit. You've probably had the same barber for a decade, or you stick with the same hairstyle for the last 2 decades. How about you find a younger stylist that is up on what's trending and can find a trending hairstyle that works for your face shape. Now, to do this, you're probably going to have to call around. You may have to spend a bit more, but you're looking for a professional, somebody that can give you not only a haircut, but actually a hairstyle based on a consultation, based off of their knowledge of what's trending, of what looks good. You know, it may be something, hey, yeah, let's get rid of a little bit of that gray. Let's bring in a little bit of highlights. Let's do something right here with these eyebrows that you've just let get out of control. A good stylist is going to take the time to explain to you what they're going to be doing. They're going to wash your hair. They're going to work to help you envision what this hairstyle is going to look like. And then as they're going through, they're going to make sure you're comfortable. They also may introduce you to new products, new things that you can put in your hair to give it a more modern look. And if you've got facial hair, your stylist should be able to give you a few tips in that direction as well. Now with your skin, if you haven't already, you want to have a basic skincare routine. You want to be every single morning washing your face, and you want to be using a face wash. Don't use a bar soap. It's going to be too harsh. Right after you wash your face, again in the morning and at night, you want to be using a moisturizer. And if you've ever dealt with acne, if you're over the age of 30, you definitely want to be using an exfoliator about 2 to 3 times a week. Now, gents, if you're looking for a no-brainer, easy to use skincare kit, you need to check out Vitaman's Essential Skincare Kit. This is everything you need to have a skincare routine that's going to have your face looking amazing. Now, as many of you guys know, I'm one of the owners of Vitaman, and I stand behind every product we sell. Maybe you're dealing with thinning hair and you want to try our thinning hair treatment kit, or maybe you just want to change up your hairstyle and you want to try our matte mud to keep your hair in place all day. Well, gents, I stand behind every product we sell with a 100% money back guarantee. Seriously, gents, if our 100% natural and organic products made in Australia are not to your satisfaction, just let me know and we will make you whole. That being said, if you haven't tried Vitaman's products, I've got a special limited time deal down in the description of today's video. Click on that link, go over to Vitaman, and you will be able to try our products for a fraction of the cost. Now, speaking of grooming, let's talk about oral hygiene. Now, it goes without saying, but you need to be brushing your teeth twice a day, flossing at night before going to bed, and using a mouthwash at a bare minimum. Seriously, gents, if you didn't know this, as you age, your mouth becomes drier and drier, and so the bad breath is going to get worse. You got away with it because you were 21 and cute. Now you're 41 and not so cute, and now it's just really bad. In addition, you've probably had 10,000 cups of coffee since your early 20s, and your teeth are showing it. So don't be afraid to get a whitening kit to clean up those teeth, to go see a dentist if you want to have a professional take care of it. And in the extreme case that your teeth are really messed up, don't be afraid to go check out Invisalign, maybe even get braces. Yes, that's a long-term fix, but if you really are out there, you're single, you simply want to come off as more attractive, having clean, straight teeth is, yeah, it helps. Speaking of smelling good, let's talk about fragrance. So in general, you want to be discovered, not announced. Remember, you're going to be in and around other people. Some people may be sensitive, but in general, if you're wanting to come off as more attractive, as someone that's approachable, having a sweet smelling fragrance, nothing wrong with that. But again, 1 to 2 sprays in the chest area, maybe 1 on each wrist in the morning, but don't overdo it. Now, the fragrance I have here is a really safe, nice one. It's Gucci Guilty Pour Homme the Parfum. This is the newest one, but the EDP is, pretty much interchangeable. That being said, if you want something with a summer vibe, then go with the aptly named fragrance, Summer Vibe. That's Dolce & Gabbana's light blue. This one actually is really nice, and again, it's going to be great for the hotter weather. If you want something that's versatile, check out the blue fragrance, which is Bad Boy Cobalt. This one by Carolina Herrera actually, I think, has great longevity and really flew under the radar for a lot of people. That being said, if you want something really sweet, when it cools down, when you're going to be close and intimate, check out 1 Million Elixir. And in that same vibe, a little bit spicier, something that's going to tickle the nose, check out Victor & Rolf's Spice Bomb Infrared Eau de Parfum. Now, at this point, some of you guys may be saying, why, Antonio, you missed so much. You didn't talk about fit, fabric, function, all the important style rules a guy needs to know. Well, I cover that right here in this video, in which I talk about the only style rules a man needs to cover. Yes, this one was a little bit more specific. This one is going to cover the base rules that every guy needs to know if you want to dress well in 2023 and beyond. Guys, check out this video right here. I made it a few months back. It did really good, and it's a solid video. Everyone's loving it. So yeah, I think you will too. Boom, right here.